So we're talking about cross-screen monetization today, and you guys have a pretty interesting thing called OCR that's helped a lot to accelerate this space and cross-channel buying. Tell us a little bit about where that started and where we are today.
Yeah, so we launched OCR about a year and a half ago, and it was really in response to helping media industry that has fragmented content start getting its arms around how they could measure this in a way that was comparable with traditional media. So we partnered with Facebook, and what we essentially did was leverage working with them their first-party data in a privacy-sensitive way to create a huge panel, right, where we can actually measure audiences down to a very micro level.
So we're at a different place a year and a half later. Tell me a little about what you guys are doing to expand upon that from a functionality perspective and to make it more useful to reach both TV and digital buyers alike.
Yeah, so OCR was an interesting thing for the industry. I know we've talked about this a lot, right?
Yep.
What it did was it started bringing a TV-like way of buying audiences to the online world, particularly in video. And so there were a couple of outgrowths of this. First of all, there was a desire to be able to plan better, right? So if OCR measured after a campaign was done, the question was how can I actually plan audiences beforehand, right? The other thing was that there was a desire to go beyond just one platform in terms of online, because mobile is, as we know, is a huge segment for video, huge and growing, right? And to be able to start adding new data points beyond just age and gender. So we actually announced, which we're excited about, we actually announced recently that we've taken an approach which will allow a single set of technology to be used to measure audiences across platforms, both for planning purposes, so understanding who's viewing what content, as well as for measuring campaigns.
And how does that, when we sort of look at TV buying versus digital buying, like from an ad ops perspective, how is this different on the planning side from trafficking a traditional digital ad, for example?
So the trafficking of the ads is actually not different. It's the same thing. It's just a pixel that you put in a creative, right? I think that what the interesting new part of this is going to be how we're measuring content, right? And the way we're planning to do that is we have an SDK that we've announced. We're actually in a beta period of this right now, and what that will do is listen for watermarks in content. So the way we measure TV today is there are watermarks that get embedded in content. We hear that in our panel. Right? Our panel isn't large enough for the digital world where you have a lot of fragmentation. It works really well for that TV world, and it's really good for calibrating to make sure that things are accurate, but for listening to the fragmentation of digital is difficult. So what we're going to do is leverage this SDK as a way of recognizing content. Then we'll be able to connect back to Facebook to understand the audience that's exposed to that content.